Just a little note that I have currently moved to a new area and it's a lot more echoey in my new room than my old room, and also there's not a lot of noise insulation, so I can currently hear my neighbours yelling at each other. So if you can too, I'll do what I can, but I can't make any guarantees. This video will contain slight spoilers for Do No Harm, but not for all the endings. Do No Harm is a 2025 strategy puzzle solving game wherein you, the player, are cast in the role of an 1800s doctor who has taken up the job in a small community to treat the townsfolk. You must diagnose and treat an array of illnesses as curiouser and curiouser anomalies start to appear around you. Before I get into this video on Do No Harm, I'll briefly touch on a teeny controversy I've seen crop up even during the pre-release and demo stages of the game: the use of AI art. Allegedly, the developers of the game have utilised AI art and have not disclosed it in their Steam description. Now, I don't know this for sure. Owing to the fact I have many amazing artist friends, I am awful when it comes to discerning real art from AI art. I can't find a mention of it from the developers themselves. In the event they have used AI art, here's my tuppence. It would have been really nice to include actual artists and given jobs to people who deserve it, but this is the developer's choice. I am not going to 100% condone AI art. Yet, I will also not condemn it. Some view it as stealing opportunities from real artists, yet I can also acknowledge how pricey it must be nowadays as an indie developer to make a game, and how the use of AI can be appealing to focus funds in other areas of the game. However, at the very least, if AI art is going to be used, it must be disclosed to the customer base, especially since the reviews of the game have praised its art. And the game does look great. The atmosphere is chilling, the characters look great, even if quite a few look almost the same as the other characters. The gameplay is fun. I initially enjoyed using the medical book to figure out which medicine to use and how much of it to give. Allergies added an extra layer of having to be careful when deciding on when to provide a higher or lower dose to certain patients. However, as the game progressed, a player is being given multiple different tools to juggle, and it makes the game more frustrating than fun. By the end of the game, you can use the following to detect what treatment is required: the book, which lists what treatments for each symptom and what to avoid with allergies; alternative medicine, if the patient isn't sure what's wrong; physical symptoms, to see how small or large a dose is needed; scale, to see what stage of sickness a patient is at; a humorographer, that shows what to give a patient if they've already been administered medication; a magnifying glass to check eyes and mouth; a stethoscope to check heart, lungs and stomach; and additional book changes for even more symptoms. This is where I lead into critique the first. There's far too many dang diagnostic tools. Towards the end stages of the game, I wasn't sure if I should be trying all of these methods or just some. At one stage, alternative medicine becomes obsolete, which is fine in and of itself. Sometimes mechanics can be dropped for newer ones, but the newer ones came with even more confusion. I decided to buy the magnifying glass and stethoscope a little later than I did in the demo, but they never appeared in the pages of the book, meaning I had a magnifying glass and a stethoscope, but I had not the foggiest idea of what symptoms I could assess with them meant at all. I know they do have a page as I played the demo, but it appears that there's a bug, as if you don't buy them immediately when they become available, they're basically useless to you. They become even more useless when you reach the fishier parts of the game. This might be my newly diagnosed autism speaking, but to me, every single patient had laboured breathing. All of them. I don't know if this was an intentional part of world building because, spoiler alert, the townspeople are turning into fish people and laboured breathing is stage 1 of the transformation, or if the developers expected us to know the subtle differences in breathing. They all sounded the same to me. The patients all also appeared to have dark circles under the eyes and some form of mouth ulcer, which meant I didn't actually know if this was a symptom, a default character design they all had, and therefore what to actually look out for, or part of the story. By the later stages of the game, I found myself flustered, flicking through the book or using the diagnostic tools, then going back to the book for the humorographer, and then administering the dose and then back again to the humorographer. And to this day, I'm still unsure as to what the 3-part scale does. I genuinely don't. The tutorials aren't extremely clear. Aside from forcing you to click the right combination of things the first time round, it's mostly a guessing game without any reliable answers. When I thought I'd mastered the humourographer, the developers decided to throw multi-medicine mixing at me. I don't understand mixing medicines, and I doubt I ever will. The lack of consistency other players reviewing the game have also voiced. Never truly actually solving a puzzle, simply fumbling around to find a solution that isn't reliable. I think in this case, the game would benefit from different game modes that dealt with specific diagnostics to familiarise players with certain mechanics without them having to repeat the day they're introduced over and over until they get it. The tutorial only gives you one practice where you're forced to click the correct answer highlighted for you before being thrust back to a patient that the newly learnt technique isn't relevant for. And by the time you've got one that it is relevant for, all that information has left your brain. A game mode for mixing, a game mode for using the magnifying glass and stethoscope, game modes for tutorials that simply don't highlight the answer for you. It would also benefit from having certain diagnostic tools and treatments completely removed. The humourographer, as I previously stated, at some point I thought I had mastered, and then it didn't make any sense anymore. It's completely unbalanced. And when it comes to multi-dose mixing, don't get me started. I don't know how to heal someone fully using 4 doses of all of the medicines. I don't think that should be in there. They should have either scrapped that or added a completely new treatment tool that made a lot more sense for the developing transformation stages. As I mentioned, repeating days over and over, let's talk about bugs. The day Do No Harm released, players were taking to the discussions to discuss bugs that they'd already found, and the majority of them were game ending, as in they had to quit the game because they could no longer progress. Patients wouldn't leave after being cured, or no one would knock on the door for a full day that never ended. I myself was stuck on day 11, watching the clock tick down to 8 PM without anyone seeking medical assistance after my 3rd patient. I wondered if perhaps this was intentional, that a scare would pop up and freak the bejesus out of me. But it never came. I reloaded on the day that I was stuck in Limbo 1 several times, and it simply wouldn't progress. The developer has since released a hotfix solving this issue, but it was fairly disappointing to see so many issues on day 1 of launch. Let's talk about laudanum now. It's a drink you must take every time you see an apparition or hallucination. These can appear behind patients, to the side, out the window, through diagnostic tools such as the magnifying glass. If you don't drink, your sanity decreases. To a certain stage, there will be illnesses you don't need to use the magnifying glass for, as you already know what treatment to administer, but a hallucination can still appear through it. This means a player isn't rewarded for figuring out puzzles, they're punished for not using every single item at their disposal. For example, if somebody came in saying, "I've got a really bad headache," and I give them blood because I know that's the solution, if I didn't use the magnifying glass, I could still miss a hallucination and my sanity would decrease. Animations also pause the game, so if you notice a hallucination as they walk out, you can't quickly go and grab a drink, and it's a sanity penalty for that. Lastly, the more patients you treat, the more they appear, and you only receive 3 bottles per day, meaning you're also punished for being good at the puzzles and treating people. My other grievance is a lack of clarity in regards to what I presume are supposed to be side quests. A priest will come and ask you to heal some of his congregation, a creepy robe-wearing dude will tell you to off some of the inhabitants, and so will an undertaker. In the demo, the robe guy will also give you a hit list, but in the current game, there is yet another bug wherein he visits but no list is given despite his dialogue alluding to him giving it to you, meaning I fail him every time because he hasn't specified who I'm supposed to off. The priest and robe bearer will come to you and tell you of their disappointment if you fail to do as they ask, but it doesn't seem to lead anywhere. Robe dude stole the owl above my clock and legged it, and this was the extent. I think I got the ending if I failed the priest, but it came out of the blue. I was given a candle and a new mechanic to snuff it out when danger was near. I carried on, and then suddenly I was accosted by a tentacle-themed end screen. I appreciate that I was supposed to probably complete said side quests and receive an explanation, yet after hours of treating dozens of patients, I felt robbed, more so because it ended so suddenly. It's a repetitive mechanic game by nature, thus my main focus was on healing patients, and any story was just kind of there and gone in a flash. Having a method of actually being able to track the storyline progression outside of having a list on your desk that is crossed off when you either heal or off a patient would be so much better, as well as a way of streamlining these side quests into bigger pictures. Newspaper can be seen in between games. Why not add encouraging or threatening notes from these goal-giving characters to keep you engaged with the lore? I still had so many questions. Who is the priest? Why was he a tentacle man? Who was the guy in robes, and why did he want to off women in particular? Why did he steal my owl, and what happened to my owl after I was snatched by the tentacle? Who was the Undertaker? What was the deal with the mute girl? Why were all the townspeople turning into fish? It was extremely anticlimactic. Perhaps it was another bug that the mechanic that was supposed to warn me to snuff the candle out wasn't working. Either way, it didn't feel complete. All these people had motivations, but I received zero clarity on it. I got what I perceived to be a bad ending from the priest, yet I still learned nothing about him. He yeeted me with multiple limbs, and I still do not know why. I understand that perhaps maybe the intention was to create replayability with the game, that people would go back and try and complete quests and get different endings. However, as previously stated, it's an extremely repetitive game in regards to the mechanics. It's frustrating to go back and play it another time because you have to go through day by day doing the same thing. When other games have different endings, there tends to be other things in the game to keep them preoccupied, which is again why it would be beneficial for the story to be more part of it than simply just slap bang at the end leading to a story ending. And that's why I feel this game is ultimately incomplete. So much thought was put into the mechanics, perhaps a little too much. Less is more, as the saying goes. This game should still be in early access. While I understand they might not want to add certain things to streamline the story, they could at the very least remove the bugs and make the tutorials easier to understand, and balance out certain mechanics of the game. While I understand that certain games will come out with bugs, Bethesda are famous for their bugs and their glitches, which makes it charming. In this case, it makes the game frustrating. An indie game I am really looking forward to is Darkshire, and it's going to be released into early access to prevent bugs from arising. I really want Darkshire to be here, but I can appreciate having to wait for it to make sure it runs as smoothly as possible, and that's what the developers for Do No Harm should have done. I hope maybe they fix these things in the future and respond to the criticism about it being far too confusing and make an even better game for what they've got already. At this point, I can safely say I do not recommend this game. As more hotfixes come out, I'm willing to give it a go and see if there's any improvements, but for right now, it's not something I'd be looking forward to delving into. I hope this review was interesting. I wanted to try something out, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.